Good afternoon, and welcome back to Policy Matters. Today we are speaking with Chad Oban, Executive Director of the North Dakota Democratic Party. Chad, welcome.
Thanks, Dustin. Thanks for having us on today.
What do you think of this weather? Finally,
well, it's sunny right now, so that's good.
Yeah, well, that's hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah, I actually talked to somebody in Washington earlier today who's complaining about all the snow that they have, and it's nice to look outside and not see any snow here.
Yeah, it is certainly a nice change. Now, you guys with the North Dakota Democratic-NPL are having your convention coming up real quick. Could you give us some little tidbits about that, what people can do to get involved and that sort of thing?
Sure. Our state convention is March 28th and 29th in Fargo, primarily at the Fargo Civic Center, and our primary hotel is the Hilton Garden in Fargo. We have slots for about 750 delegates. We expect to get relatively close to that. You know, it's sometimes tough to get folks from Williston and that far away to drive all the way to Fargo for a convention. We expect it to be an exciting convention. We're going to endorse all of our candidates. We're very close to having a full slate of announced candidates that will be endorsed in Fargo on the 28th and 29th. So we're very excited about it. We're going to have Senator Conrad and Senator Dorgan will be back, along with Congressman Pomeroy, and of course Senator Heitkamp will be there as well.
And you know, a lot of chatter amongst those in the political sphere here in Bismarck have been talking about lately how the Democrats have kind of had some difficulties recruiting candidates and getting people involved in wanting to put their name on the ballot. And you know, we all know that part of that is because Republicans have such a stranglehold on the situation here in the state, and the public, you know, rightfully or wrongly, thinks that everything's hunky-dory, so to speak. Why do you think it is so hard for your party to gain more traction and get people willing to put their name out there?
Sure, and the fact of the matter is candidate recruitment and getting folks to run for office is never an easy prospect. I'm exceptionally pleased with the quality of the ticket we've put together with George Sinner at the top running for Congress. Ryan Taylor is going to be our next Ag Commissioner. Our two PSC candidates, Todd Reisenauer and Tyler Axness, are fabulous. And our tax commissioner candidate, Jason Astrup, and Kiera Kraus-Parr, our attorney general candidate, have all announced. It's not often that we go into our convention with a full slate of candidates, and we expect to go into this convention with a full slate of candidates. You know, I don't think when the average voter thinks about who they're going to vote for in November, they think about, did this candidate announce in January or did this candidate announce in March? The fact is we've put together a tremendous group of folks, some of them well-known, young, aggressive. They're all going to run great campaigns. Frankly, a lot of them are more qualified than the Republican incumbents. But the reality is when you're looking at a statewide race, it's a big investment of time. And when you're a challenger, you have to figure out your employment, how you're going to pay your mortgage, your family situation. Julie Fedorchak gets to keep her job as a public service commissioner that she was appointed to and run for office. It's not a tough decision if you're already in office. Ryan Rauschenberger, appointed tax commissioner. He gets to continue being tax commissioner. These guys get to put out press releases on the taxpayer dime. I mean, it's pretty easy to make that decision when you're already in office. It's a lot more difficult when you're taking on a challenge. And frankly, I'm proud of the Democrats that have stepped up because it is a big commitment for these guys to take their run.
Do you think that the issues that your party has brought up lately when it comes to infrastructure and Western development issues and the need for a special session to address these sorts of things, which really, you know, are not a partisan issue when it comes to the West, I've probably heard more dissent and criticism from Republicans than Democrats simply because there's more Republicans out there talking about things, and I think that they're trying to separate themselves from the governor a little bit simply to give themselves some distance so that they aren't as susceptible to criticism from Democrats. But do you think that there is going to be any movement when it comes to these issues to help give your candidates any traction, or do you think that it's kind of an internal thing with the Republicans?
I frankly think Democrats supporting Western North Dakota is not a new concept. During the last session, Kent Nonstead and others were the ones sponsoring a bill that 80% of the oil extraction tax stays in these communities. We shouldn't expect communities in Western North Dakota to have to come to Bismarck and beg for this money. we shouldn't expect for our Western communities not to have their needs met when it comes to education, when it comes to roads, when it comes to so many other things, while the state's sitting on $2 billion. So the fact is, I think the worm is turning on these issues, and it's not just Democrats that are complaining about this. The Williston Herald 2 weeks ago did an editorial asking where are their legislators when it comes to calling for a special session. So the reality is, I think we've always been on the right side of these issues. And then you add in the big train derailment, you add in the oil leak, you add in the water treatment plant at Ross. I think the folks in Western North Dakota are very concerned about what's happening to their livelihood. My wife comes from Western North Dakota, from Ray, North Dakota. Her parents just moved here about a year and a half ago. The fact of the matter is they lived in a town of 600 people because they liked living in a community where they knew their neighbors. Their community changed. Took them 15 minutes to get out on Highway 2 from the stop sign. That's not the life that these guys signed up for. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, oil is tremendously beneficial to these communities at the same time. I mean, they don't have to worry about population loss and some of these things, but the state continues to play catch-up rather than investing on the front end and making decisions on the front end.
Why do you think that it has been so difficult for Republicans to accept the concept that there needs to be some sort of high-level automatic reinvestment of the oil funds from the counties and the areas that are producing them, and really just to stay even, there has to be some sort of percentage. I don't know or think that 80% is probably the answer, but at some point, I believe a lot of these counties are getting only 6%. Well, there's obviously a lot of ground in between there, and most people can accept that 6% is probably too little. Why do you think it's been so difficult to get Republicans to jump on that and address it when it kind of would seem to be a no-brainer to do something to change that?
It's lack of leadership. It's lack of leadership throughout the Republican Party, both from the Republicans in Western North Dakota, who should be standing up for their communities, but even more so when Al Carlson out in Fargo is running the show and making decisions for what is good for Williston and Dickinson and Watford City. We've got a real imbalance in our legislature. So the fact is, the Democratic Party's goal in 2014 is to restore some balance, not only to the legislature, but also to the Industrial Commission and the Public Service Commission as well, to stand up for those folks living in Western North Dakota and make sure that they're getting a fair shake. Because the reality is, again, $2 billion that we're sitting on in Bismarck, while the needs continue to go out unmet out west. We have a shortage of police officers, infrastructure, so many other issues that are completely going unaddressed at this point.
Well, during the 2013 session, I thought one of the greatest ironies was the fact that Bob Scarpel was pushing a several $100 million Hub Cities funding program, which obviously was probably more in the direction that you would support than what Al Carlson would support.
Yeah, it was funny talking to a lot of Democrats complimenting that bill. Because you don't often hear Democrats supporting what Bob Scarpel is doing, but in this case, a lot of Democrats, both within the community up there, but also legislators in Bismarck that were supporting what he wanted to do.
And why do you think that something like that from someone who is 90% considered to be very conservative, like Bob Scarpel, why do you think that didn't gain more traction than it did in session?
Well, again, the folks in Western North Dakota need to understand that it's Al Carlson who's making the decisions for Western North Dakota. Al Carlson from Fargo, who's not spent a lot of time in Western North Dakota and doesn't understand their needs. I think there's a lack of understanding from a lot of our legislators to know what's happening in Western North Dakota. I've talked to school superintendents who talked to legislators, again, not from their communities, who didn't believe that the roads they had problems with, getting school buses, doing all these other things. The fact is, we've got this huge issue in Western North Dakota that's going unaddressed. Again, we love the benefits, but there are big issues that need to be dealt with. And that's why Max Schneider and Kenton Onstead called for a special session to deal with those problems now. I think it was Rich Wardner who said the next session is only 10 months away. If you're living in these communities, only 10 months away is a long time.
Right, and obviously the issue is mostly more timing than money, really, because it's a matter of getting the contracts in place and getting the costs under control and locked in now for the next construction season, rather than waiting till the session is, even if they did an emergency bill like they did last session, it still puts them on a short timeline. How do you think the public is is thinking of this outside of the people in the West that are actually getting impacted? Because there seems to be a sense that from those who are not living it day to day that, oh, the Republicans in the legislature will take care of it eventually, don't have to worry about it. Do you think that that attitude is changing, or do you think that that attitude is the problem?
I think people are starting to pay more attention to what's happening in western North Dakota, in eastern North Dakota, because of a few different things. One, the train derailment, I think, brought the oil and gas issue right in front of them in Castleton. They now understand that the Bakken oil is getting out on those tracks. But the other thing is farmers trying to get their crops out. When farmers and elevator owners can't get grain onto the railroad, that's a problem, and they understand. And so some of these issues in western North Dakota, they're starting to pay a little bit more attention to. And the other thing that I would point to is crime. It's hard to read a newspaper where there's not some sort of incident going on in eastern North Dakota as well as western North Dakota, and it's something that's just making North Dakota feel a little bit different to a lot of people who've been here for a long time.
We just got a couple more minutes left for this segment here, Chad, but what do you think it's going to take to change the momentum in North Dakota that Republicans have had, well, basically for over 20 years now, going on 25 years, to really change the state and turn it into a two-party state again?
Yeah, I mean, I think 2012 went a long way, frankly, to that. I mean, Senator Heitkamp winning was important because it sent a message to the people of North Dakota and from the people of North Dakota that they want balance. They want two parties in Washington. We also picked up a few legislative seats in 2012 and a lot of great young legislators. The future of the North Dakota Democratic Party is bright because of some of these young legislators. But the reality is we're running strong candidates who are going to run strong campaigns with powerful messages about the need for balance and bringing balance back to Bismarck. I expect that we'll pick up both Senate and House seats. I expect that we're going to take back that congressional seat, and I would expect for us to win one or two of the statewide elections.
And with just about 30 seconds left, do you think that what's your prognostication on how many seats you will regain in the legislature this next election?
It's I believe it's March, the middle of March right now. I'm not willing to venture a guess, but I think we're going to be competitive in a lot of seats all over the state. In eastern North Dakota, but also in western North Dakota. I think we're going to pick up a seat or two in Bismarck and Minot as well.
So the Magic 8 Ball says, ask again later.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, Chad, for
Thanks,
joining
Dustin.
us on Policy Matters.